We'll be talking about self-esteem and body image today on behalf of OneFuture Coachella Valley. So who am I? Once again, my name is Jazmin Rojas, pronouns she, they. I am a fourth year at UCI, and I'm currently studying psychological and biological sciences. So a quick disclaimer before we officially get started, the information presented today is not therapy. If you do need further assistance, please feel free to contact us for further resources that will also be posted at the end of the presentation. So some community agreements, I really like to just make sure we all know we're in a safe space by setting like a couple of rules. So number one, the Vegas rule, what is said here stays here, and what is learned here leaves here. So making sure, we're in a safe area to be vulnerable, share our opinions, and know that this is a free judgment zone. So by creating this safe space, we are free from judgment. Also, one mic, one Beyonce, whoever is talking, please give them your utmost respect and attention to let them have the space here for today. And lastly, throw sunshine, not shade. We are in a safe environment where nothing but good energy is emitted out there. We're all here for a common purpose, and hopefully we can leave here with some valuable information to apply to our own lives and also share it to others. So some objectives, we're going to be defining self-esteem and identifying tips to improve it, also learning what affects body image and how it can relate to self-esteem. So I'd like to start off our presentation with a quote by Sarah Jane Case that says, "You are both good, bad, messy, and complex, and still worthy of compassion, love, and acceptance." So feel free to interpret that as you wish. By the end of the day, just remember we are still all worthy of compassion, love, and acceptance. So what is self-esteem? Self-esteem is a person's overall sense of self-worth or personal value. In other words, how much do we appreciate and like ourselves? Self-esteem serves as a motivational function by making it more or less likely that people will take care of themselves and explore their full potential. There's three types of self-esteem. So there's low self-esteem, characterized by a lack of confidence and feeling badly about oneself. So this is kind of where imposter syndrome comes up. We don't feel capable nor value ourselves enough to do some of the tasks that we might be placed at hand. And inflated self-esteem. Self-esteem cannot be good sometimes. If we have too much, it can really be characterized by an inability to listen to others and accept critique for themselves, meaning, overconfidence. I'm way above you type of mentality, right? Which is not really good. And there's high self-esteem. High self-esteem is characterized by a good sense of confidence and feeling good about oneself. So I love myself. I appreciate myself. I am enough, right? So there's always a balance. And the goal is to have high self-esteem where we are very confident in what we are, what we do, and what we possess. So how does it affect us? In the positive lens, it really helps your confidence, allows you to have realistic expectations, right? If I don't have any medical school experience, there is no way that I can say I am a doctor, right? I don't have the education, nor do I have the proper experience. And you also aren't overly critical. We understand that we all have faults and flaws, but that's a part of the process of being an individual. And also more resilience, especially with our current circumstances. The fact that we are all still here, willing to learn and willing to communicate with others, shows that we have good confidence to speak with other individuals that are not the same as us. And a negative connotation, negative lens of inflated self-esteem is narcissism. Some individuals, we're way up here and don't have that good balance where we don't accept critique nor accept any criticism in a good way. And so sometimes having low self-esteem can actually cause anxiety, stress, and loneliness, as not having good self-esteem can really cause you to isolate yourself in a very negative way. And it also may cause problems in interpersonal relationships. So this is something we talked about, I want to say probably around week 4, where we talked about interpersonal relationships and how if we don't really feel confident about ourselves, we tend to isolate and kind of, get angry at the people who love us, people who want to help us due to our own personal issues. So factors that can actually affect self-esteem: social media and culture, two very big things that are currently in our lives every single day. So for social media, some folks crave validation. You always upload a picture, oh, I want to see how many likes I got, how many comments I got, who did it, who watched it, right? And we try to quantify our worth based on the amount of likes and followers we have, which is something that didn't exist now, right? And so this is an upcoming issue that us, especially as like young folks, young millennial folks who are really just I have Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram. There are so many sources of areas where we crave this validation, because it's like we wake up and this is the first thing we do, right? And so that can really affect how you continue your day, how you continue your week, how you continue your month, and etc. And also, one thing we don't realize on social media, people tend to put the best version of themselves. We feel inadequate because we are starting to compare ourselves to people who only post the good things, right? Nobody posts a bad hair day picture. And so we think, oh, this person does not have bad hair days in the same sense that I do. And so that's when we start making connections and start associating things to ourselves, where our self-esteem just tends to go on a downward hill due to things that we don't see behind the scenes. As for culture, individualism and collectivism, if you haven't heard of that before, but it tends to be me as a Hispanic individual tend to have a very collectivistic mentality, where if I do something, it's always going to revolve around my family, right? And so if I really place a lot of value on my family's opinions, anything that they will say to me will tend to get me, right? And it's typically for people who live in a more individualistic culture that have higher rates of self-esteem compared to those who are in collectivistic cultures. And this is because in an individualistic culture, you're kind of making your future by grabbing yourself up from the bootstraps, if you've ever heard of that, right? It's defining your own self by your own terms and no one else's, compared to a collectivistic culture where, you know, your surrounding, your household, your micro scale, like surrounding really kind of shapes you and defines who you are, as well as representation. If you don't really see yourself in the media, you start to create like a lack of representation and a negative representation that can eventually contribute to your lack of self-esteem. If you don't see yourself up there doing great things, then it's how can I potentially do those things that I don't see of someone of my skin color, right? And also feeling the need to conform. If you're from a culture that differs from another, you may feel the need to conform into that new culture, which could be really difficult, as culture is really something we abide to and something we do on a daily basis. And so this sudden shock and this new form of culture and having to adapt to it can really hurt you towards the end of the day, especially if you're conforming to things that you don't particularly agree with. So body image, what is body image? Body image is how you see yourself in the mirror compared to how you imagine yourself in your head. So this is the spotlight effect, when we might enter a store and we're like, oh, everybody's looking at me, I think I look X, Y, and Z, when in reality in the mirror, we're just a regular shopper, right? So body image includes an affective perspective, how we feel about our body, and also a perceptual perspective, how we see our body, and a cognitive perspective, where how we think about our body. Do we think, you know, we're overweight? Do we think we're underweight? Do we think we're tall? Do we think, you know, we're short, etc.? And so the affective, perceptual, and cognitive perspective all really impact how you behave. If I think I am too tall, I am not going to wear heels. If I think I am too short, I am not going to go to, let's just say, an amusement park where, you know, the minimum height is there. And so that kind of hurts my self-esteem, especially concerts. If I believe I'm too short, I won't attend in order to avoid the crowd. And so what affects our perception of body image? Similar to our self-esteem, both cultures and social media. So our parents have a lot of influence on our body image. You know, oh, you should lay off the tortillas. You know, that kind of hurts. I'm like, ouch, what are you trying to tell me, you know? And also past experiences. If you've ever happened to wear a particular clothing item, let's just say an orange bright shirt you really liked, you step into the classroom, you step into your work, and they say, you should try a different color. So now I'm never wearing orange. And that's how it happens with past experiences. And also peers, something that I struggled with as a young individual growing up in a low income community. I couldn't afford, you know, Skechers. It was always, you know, the off-brand shoes. And it was always, you know, off-brand backpacks. And eventually that kind of impacted my own body image, in the sense of I can't compete up to my peers who have a lot more income than I do, right? And so poor body image is thinking you're too much of something, being too focused on changing the way you look, and believing that your appearance contributes to your value. For a healthy body image, it's about feeling comfortable in your own skin, accepting and appreciating yourself, and being able to recognize and value your qualities and strengths. And so this doesn't happen overnight. It's about practice and consistency, and also caring about yourself. And so By not liking your body, it becomes harder to feel good about yourself as a whole. By not valuing yourself as a whole, it's harder to like and respect your body. And if you can see the pattern here, it's just a downward spiral. So the key here is to hopefully, stop it wherever we're at in order to, switch that kind of mentality and eventually focus on valuing ourselves merely above the physical. As a result, healthy body image and self-esteem can really contribute to our mental health, contribute to healthier interpersonal relationships, better overall mentality and attitude, and more emotional stability compared to poor body image and self-esteem where our mental health suffers. Eating disorders begin to enroll. Either you eat too much, eat too less. Body dysmorphic disorders, that's a completely different area of mental health that really seeks a lot of help from a lot of social groups and also therapy, as well as less social interaction and stability whenever we suffer from poor body image and self-esteem. So ways to boost our self-esteem is identify negative self-talk. So if you've heard the term self-deprecation, a lot of things whenever we make mistakes, oh, I'm so stupid, oh, I can't do that, things of that nature are not good for yourselves. And even though they do sound like small comments, eventually that habit of self-deprecation can really contribute to negative self-esteem. It's important to check in with ourselves, being honest about how we feel in the moment, listening to what we're saying about ourselves, going back to negative self-talk, and also challenging what we're telling ourselves. So probably switching from I have to do X, Y, and Z, it's saying, hey, I get the opportunity to do X, Y, and Z. Switching that kind of negative self-talk to positive self-talk, which is talking yourself up. We're more than capable of doing a lot of things, especially in our circumstance. What we're doing is not easy. How can we encourage ourselves for a healthier body image? Is treating ourselves with respect, surrounding ourselves with positive friends and family who identify our unique characteristics. Most importantly, eating well and balanced meals, exercising as well, because it makes us feel good and strong, and identify that as a way to not control your body, but rather than a method to really focus on yourself as an individual. And also be aware of how you talk about your body with friends and family. So before I end my presentation, I would like to challenge everyone to just write down 5 affirmations and just think about, who you are, what you do, what you like about yourself, what you've done throughout the day, and any of the great accomplishments you've been able to do. I'd like to just announce, while you're doing that, I'd like to announce some primary resources in the Coachella Valley. First and foremost, the Jewish Family Services of the Desert, the Clínicas de Salud del Pueblo, and 2 of other great resources will be the All Desert Wellness Center and the Student Health and Wellness Center that provides services at College of the Desert. Thank you so much.